Hey everyone, how's it going? So tonight I am back on my how-to series on the N-scale layout on my dining room table in my apartment. So what I've started here is laying out kind of a track plan. So I haven't used any digital software or anything to figure out what I want. I'm kind of just winging it. I don't want to go through all that, and so I'm just kind of seeing what I like. I used some just masking tape, blue painter's tape, and kind of laid out what I want here. And what I did is I went to my local hobby store and I got Code 55 N-scale Flex Track. This is made by, who is it? Micro Engineering. So they make Micro Engineering makes N-scale Flex Track. I think they make Code 80, Code 55, and I don't know all the other codes. I'm not a 100% solid N-scaler. My main scale is O-scale. But I've always liked N-scale. I thought it was cool how small and detailed you can get on some of the small layouts, especially on this size. But like I said, this is weathered Micro Engineering N-scale Code 55 Flex Track. The reason I chose Code 55 is because weathered Code 55 is because the rail and is smaller in height, and the ties are closer together. It's more the North American style instead of the European. The hobby store had Kato or Kato, depending where you're from, you may say Kato or Kato differently. They had Kato Code 80 or 83, I believe it was, and it's more of the European look, just in my opinion. You may have a different opinion on that, but I like the closer ties, the brown ties. There was also cement ties, the gray ties. My hobby store didn't have that, but I've seen that on YouTube, and all the other hobby stores online and such have had that. It's cool in my opinion, but I'm looking for more of the brown basic railroad ties. So like I said, what I've got going in here is I got my flex track, I bought some cork, and I just kind of laid down my basic track plan, which is kind of a dog bone shape with a left hand and a right hand switch to make two sidings, one with a station probably, and one with some freight and other buildings with a little tiny yard, just so I can set two trains in there when I'm not using them. I'm hoping to do either Amtrak. I really want an Amtrak, a BNSF, and a UP modern freight on this layout. So what I did earlier is I kind of messed up a little bit on the foam. There's a part that is a little bit taller than the other half of the foam. So what I did is I went and got from Home Depot again, made another trip, got 100 grit sandpaper, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just sand down the center section so that there's no uneven bumps or anything within the track that's going over here, because especially on this side there's a curve where this dog bone is. I don't know if the camera can see that very well, but especially with N-scale, anything small that could mess up anything most likely will mess up something anytime in the future. So what I'm trying to do is avoid any potential future problems, so I can set the train down, just turn the power on and let it slowly run around, or Amtrak streamline, let it go real quick, so I can set it down and not have any problems. So what I'm just doing here is I'm scraping this unevenness right here, and it's coarse enough, but it's just fine enough to where it's not going to take up a whole lot, so you have chunks coming out, but it'll evenly smooth it as you're going along. So what I'm going to plan on doing here is I already started playing around with the flex track and getting used to it. I've never used it before. It's a little interesting. You kind of have to, it's like cracking it apart, it feels like. It's kind of satisfying. But you got to slowly kink it in small, smooth sections at a time to get the curvature that you want. And I think I'm going to lay down my cork road bed, and then I also bought some of these super small 1 1/4 inch nails. And so what I'll show you in another video probably, if not later in this video, I may put this section of it together. And but what I'll do is I will put the nail in one end and then start playing with it and set them in there so it's all set. And then I can glue it down and go from there. So what I've started doing here, I started already before I started shooting the video, is I'm just kind of test fitting how the cork is going to fit on the layout and how the curvatures are all going to be. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. You can just immediately go to setting the cork down and gluing and just doing it that way. I'm just doing this for my own, just for my personal preference, I guess I would say. This is just how I want to do it. So what I'm doing is I'm getting the 2 cork sections and I'm just laying them out and using these small little nails, the 1 1/4 inch nails that I mentioned earlier, and just going around the layout and putting the curves down and putting them down and seeing how I'm gonna fit all this and how it's all gonna work. It's definitely useful to do this on a small layout because I can do this whole layout within 15 minutes or so. It's a different story if you're doing it on your home layout that is your whole basement. It'd definitely take a lot longer, and I probably wouldn't go throughout planning it like this and just nailing it down, then taking it all up again and gluing it down and everything. But I'm just doing this because it's so small, and I can just quickly put this down, take it back up after I mark it and everything, and then start putting the adhesive down so then I can glue it down, and then after that start putting the track in. So the rest of this video is going to involve me putting this cork down, marking it, taking it back up, putting the adhesive down and putting it down again, and then doing the track work. And I will show how to do the flex track later in this video. When you're getting the nails, get lots of them. I think this has 245. I doubt I'll need that many, but it's always good to have a little extra. This is only $2 at Home Depot. So really it's not that much money. It's just an extra $2 onto your build list for your little layout. But it really helps having all these nails so you can put them every couple inches to make sure that your cork stays in the exact place that you're wanting it, especially when you put the adhesive down. Then the cork will stay there and glue exactly how you want, so you won't have any issues on your curvature or anything like that. So I'm going to do a quick time lapse of me putting the cork down, and we'll go from there. So on our layout, I have all the cork road bed laid down pretty much how I want it, and as you can see, all the nails are in. So I'm doing with this nail right here is I just found any type of sharp object that can indent into the foam. And so what I'm doing is using that sharp nail to just go on either side of the foam, or not the foam, excuse me, the road bed, and make an indentation in the foam so that when I take the road bed up, I'm able to see where the road bed actually is once I take the road bed and the tape up. After I've made the indentions on either side, I can set down the nail. Now the nails I have in the cork road bed that are holding it down in place, you now can start removing. Once you finally get all the nails removed, now take up your cork road bed. As you can see, we have an indentation on either side of the where the cork road bed was. You can go over these again and make them deeper so they're more visible. But now you can start to peel off, if you did it the way I did, you can start peeling off the masking tape. The nail that you used indented the foam even under the masking tape. So once you take off this tape, you can see exactly where your markings are and where your cork road bed is. Now as you can see here, what I'm doing is I'm just going over it once more so I can see it even better than I could already, just so my eyes could see it. If you already did it deep enough, then you'll be fine. So what I've done here is I've laid the basics, basically just the whole main line of what the layout's going to be, and I've put the nails in the foam. And so what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to wait on doing the sidings, the two siding sections here, because I have all the flex track, but the hobby store I went to was out of left-hand switches. They had two right-hand switches, two number 5 code 55's right-hand switches left, but I just waited till they got some left-hand switches in, and I was just going to go get the left and right-hand switch both at the same time. And so I'll put once I get the left-hand switch, I'm going to just set the left hand right here, and then so I can get accurate alignment of where I want the switch to be and how the angle of the switch is going to be in terms of where I can then lay the cork down and get an accurate layout to where it will, the track will be. And so I can get the left hand one, and then I know where the right hand one will also be, so I can have more of an accurate look at it. And so with that, what I'm going to do is I've got this all done. I'm more a visual person, so I just kind of wanted to visually see how this is all going to look and know that it's all going to work out, at least for the outside track. And I'll make it work whatever the angle of the switch is and everything, but just so I can visually see how this all work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a picture of this, take it all up, take the tape off underneath, but before I do that, I'm going to actually just run either my finger or like a nail or something along the outside and the inside of the track, so it'll kind of dig down into the foam and leave a mark. So then when I do take it all up, I can see where it's at, and if I want to make any modifications, if I want to make the curves a little smoother, if they're not as nice, these aren't too bad, but if I want to do that, then I would do you put a nail in the center, a string, and a pencil, or something like that. But I'll look at that next. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this up, and I'm going to start putting the roadbed actually down onto the layout.
So what we're going to need to start putting the cork roadbed down onto the layout permanently is nails, our spatula, and then the construction adhesive that we used in the last video. Start off by using the construction adhesive on your caulk gun to put a thin bead and a thin layer down onto your foam of where your cork roadbed will be. After you start doing this, use the spatula that we bought or anything else that's flat that you have in your home to flatten down that bead of construction adhesive. This ensures that when you put your cork roadbed down, you have a fully sealed bead of construction adhesive. Man, I cannot talk in this video. But use that spatula to flatten everything down, so then once you put the roadbed on there, you will have a good solid seal of construction adhesive. After you've laid down your construction adhesive and flattened it all down, grab your cork roadbed. Starting with 1/2 of the cork roadbed, slowly lay it down, firmly pushing down on the construction adhesive area that you've laid down already, and use the nails that you have lying around to tack the cork roadbed in place so that when you lift your hands up, it does not move and it stays in place. After you've done the 1/2 of the cork roadbed, go ahead and grab the other half so that you can start evenly laying a full roadbed around your layout and continue this same process throughout the rest of your layout. Now let's move on to laying track. So as you see here, our flex track pushes one end of the track out further than the other. To fix this and to connect the other track, simply grab anything that can cut metal of any kind and just snip them even making sure that the track is straight when you do so, or in the curved shape that you want. Once you cut your track, now you'll want to grab a small file. You can buy these at any local hobby store. The next step is to file away any burrs or any other foreign metal shapes that have been produced after you've cut the metal rail. Doing this will then ensure that your rail joiners will connect seamlessly onto the track with a tight, snug fit. Once you've filed away any foreign metals and any burrs on the rail, now you can grab your rail joiners. Now in my case, it was easier for me to use a pair of pliers, which in turn kind of bent the rail joiner and made it a little bit harder to get on the other side, but being careful and not squeezing too hard, this comes in handy to use the pliers, and instead of pushing the rail joiner into your hand and possibly cutting your skin, you can use the pliers to firmly yet gently apply the rail joiner onto the track. Next, grab the piece of track that you desire to attach to the other side and use some pressure, but still being careful not to bend any of the rail joiners. Put the two pieces of track together using those rail joiners. This may be tough as they are tight and very small, but it'll take some force and pressure to get them together. Now that you have the track together and pinned down, now it's time to solder the rail joiners together. So what I have here is some flux. This will clean the track and apply the solder evenly across the rail joiner. I put the flux and solder on the outside rail as to make sure that the flanges do not hit any of the uneven surfaces of any kind, and there will be no future problems. Now grab your solder and your soldering iron. Apply the solder onto the outside part of the rail joiner. Use a very small amount. This does not require very much to make a good solid connection. Repeat this on both sides of the track. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take your putty knife and your adhesive in your caulk gun. Now what we're going to do with these is we're going to put the adhesive onto the road bed, and then we're going to use the putty knife to then spread out the adhesive bead that we laid down. Doing this will then flatten the adhesive so that the adhesive will not go up in between the ties and all on your track. Now we can finally start to lay our track. The adhesive has been applied onto the road bed. We've flattened it to where it's not a thick bead. And so now we can slowly lay our track down, working out any kinks and making sure everything is centered and flattened down onto the adhesive with the secure lock. So it has been actually about a month or so since I last made those few shots back in this video. And so I've finished this and completed the gluing and adhering of the road bed and the track. So I've got my layout stood up right here against the wall just to show you this is what it should all look like in the end after you've done everything that we've gone through in this video. If you've watched it all the way to the end, you'll see this clip. But you should have enough adhesive on there to where the track does not move and it does not fall off even when it's completely upside down or leaning up against the wall. And this is also good because then for me specifically, I have enough to where it's not overdoing it in adhesive and it's everywhere, but it's not too little to where it'll fall off, because the whole point of me making this layout is that I can just put it up against the wall and leave it alone for a while. So what my next step is all I have to do is figure out how I want two sidings to come off of the main line. I'm still debating. I've been debating all month of what I want to do with it. Can't decide whether I want to do just one siding going right beside it or if I want to do two right beside it, but that's for me to figure out, and we'll see later what I decide. But now that you've done all this in the video, the next thing you can do is you can start adding foam to make mountains and scenery and whatever you want to do with your layout for scenery. You can add the foam, you can add the grass, you can paint, and then ultimately to this track you're going to add your ballast. which I hope to make a future video of maybe showing ballast and some scenery, but it's also a lot of work to show every step in the creation of a layout. And so I kind of like want to relax and make my layout without having the pressure of having to make a video to show every step. So the next video you see, there may be scenery, there may be not. I guess it could be a surprise and we'll find out. But just before we go, I want to mention that I do have a new Instagram page for this YouTube channel, 682Charlie. If you happen to have an Instagram, or if you don't, you can download it on the App Store and the Android Store, whatever they use. Windows, I think, also has it. I'm sure every company has it. But if you download it or go into the search bar on Instagram, you can search 682Charlie, exactly my username on YouTube, and it should be a picture at the very top saying 682Charlie with a picture of an S-scale Lion Chief locomotive. So if you do me a favor, go follow that account, and so you can see almost daily updates of what I'm doing, and just a bunch of model railroading pictures and all that similar variety of stuff. You'll see those daily a lot faster than you'll see these videos coming out. So anyways, to wrap all this up, I appreciate you watching this video all the way to the end, or if you skip to the end, whatever. But I appreciate you watching the video. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, along with pushing that little bell notification to turn on post notifications for when I upload another video. So again, thanks for watching.